Tonight, our theme species comes in all shapes and sizes. Inshore favorites are crab, shrimp, pilchards, and mullet. Offshore favorites would be ballyhoo, sardines, goggle eyes, and squid. Our captains are standing by with their reports so that you will know where to go and what to use. Tonight, it's all about the bait here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, powered by Harbor Trucks and presented by Yamaha.
Thanks for tuning in to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We are taking you through what I think is the most important show this week, talking all about the bait, about that bait, like you said, Rick.
There's number one.
Number one, yes, of course.
We have a pool.
We do.
About how many times you're going to say that in tonight's show.
I might say it a lot. It's fun, right? Now, Rick, the bait is where the bite all begins, and you always talk about how important it is to match the hatch.
Absolutely, Bree, and that's part of the game here in the beautiful state of Florida. If you know how the cycles of bait during the times of year, how they come and go, you will always be the guy that's leading at the boat ramp every single day because of knowing how to make those little bit of adjustments.
That's true.
I can't wait to hear what our
easy,
captain.
but you know,
it's not.
It's not.
It really isn't.
No. All right, our CCA Workbench man, Dave Farrell, is the master of the baiting, and he's got lots to show us today, don't you, Dave?
Yep. We're going to talk about how to keep your bait nice and fresh and ready to go, because a fresh bait is the best bait.
Fresh bait is the best bait. I totally agree on that one. All right, let's kick off this bait fest in the Startron Central East region with Captain Jeff Page. Captain Central West region, sorry, my bad. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good, and it was really good seeing you guys at Daiquiri Deck the other night down in Venice. What a good crowd we had there. You know, when it comes to bait, Startron Central West region has no lack of it, and nor do we have lack of ways to catch it. We usually probably start, number one, with a cast net, and I prefer a Calusa cast net, but there's a lot of good brands out there, and a good starting size cast net, if you're just learning to throw, is a 6 to 8 footer, and a good all-around mesh size, so you don't get in a lot of trouble, is a 1/4 inch mesh. That allows the smaller stuff to not get gilled as much, but you're still going to catch some of the bigger stuff in the 1/4 inch net. I like using a 3/8 most of the year, and then when I'm cast netting mullet, ladyfish, or big pinfish, I like using a 1 inch mesh. The mesh size make a difference because the bigger the mesh, the quicker the net will sink. Saying that, the lead line is the same way. Guys build real heavy lead lines for cast netting around bridges and in the current, whereas up on the grass flats, you don't need a heavy lead line to catch the bait. So, you know, that's just a little tip to remember when you're out purchasing cast nets. Another popular way to catch bait, everybody does it in the state, is the famous sabiki rig, which is a series of hooks with a weight on the bottom. And you can sabiki around pilings, you can sabiki over structure, you can sabiki in the middle of bait schools, and you're still going to come up with usually threadfin herring, big pilchards, pinfish, and a variety of others. And last but not least, the trap. The trap works very well. Rick uses the trap down in his region to trap pinfish. We'll use the same kind of trap, but a little bigger, to catch crabs. But the trap works well because you shove some bait in it and just put a rope and a buoy on it and throw it down there. And you can go off and throw your cast net for a little while, come back, check your trap, and catch your crabs or your pinfish out of them. And then also a dip net works real well if you're at a light on a dock or at a bridge that you have access to getting low enough to the water to dip net shrimp and crabs and shiners as they go by. I've got a couple bait photos tonight. First one of a guy throwing a cast net along the mangroves. Nice. And then the second photo is a live well full of pilchards and pinfish after a morning of cast netting. And that's a good feeling when you're heading out on a trip, knowing you got that live well bubbling full of candy.
All right, what else you got inshore, Paige?
Redfish, you know, I've been talking to you. We've had all this rain, Rick, And you and I both believe the more rainwater that washes out of the canals and creeks and back bays and rivers, the more tannic the water gets. And for some reason, that redfish gets a lot more approachable in that tannic water. We've been doing real well with a couple different schools up around the Skyway Bridge. And then I've heard some fish have been in the back of Terracea Bay. One thing in common, the school, the tight bunches, the best way to find them is slow on your trolling motor, bump them up, and throw topwater surface plugs like skitter walks or soft plastics in them, like a golden brim Bass Assassin Sea Shad, so you can make those long casts. Now, that being said, once you get close enough, maybe you can get some bait on them and get them to settle down and catch a dozen or so before they roam off. As far as single fish, around docks and oyster bars in Terracea, as well as down in Bull Bay and Turtle Bay, guys have been doing real well on your 18 to 26 inch redfish using chunk ladyfish, chunk pinfish, or again, that's Assassin Sea Shad. I've got a redfish photo tonight of my wife Diane Page and Ada Polly with a couple nice reds we got Sunday out on the flats, throwing nothing but 1/4 ounce spoons.
All right, let's go offshore, Paige.
Red grouper, I'm in the red category tonight. The red grouper has moved out deeper, Rick, due to this water temperature, but the fish have been consistent, and all the charter captains I'm talking to have been doing real well over hard bottom area, Swiss cheese bottom, in that 110 to 150 feet of water, and they've been mixing it up, frozen sardines as well as live pinfish, and they're using just a standard bottom rig. One day there was some really bad current out there, and they had to bump up to 6 to 8 ounce weights. But other than that, 1 to 3's been working real well, and the guys have been getting their limit, no problem. I got a photo tonight of a happy client with Captain Tim No on the flying fish. Last but not least, the red snapper. You know, the recreational season's winding down. Snapper fishing remains consistent. They have moved out deeper, just like the red grouper, 150 feet on out. Captain Tim No is on like his 48th day of red grouper fishing, and he's still gotten his limit every day, no problem. And then Captain Rob Roberts of Tight Lines, he had a stellar day on red snapper using a mixture of live pinfish, frozen sardine over small areas of hard bottom and ledges. And I've got the photo tonight of the biggest red snapper they caught with Captain Rob Roberts, who runs one of Chris Seeger's Tight Lines boats.
All right, Captain Page had a trifecta on the red category. I like it very, very much. Again, Paige, good job this week at the Daiquiri Deck. Hopefully we'll get the chance to do it again. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Daiquiri Deck hotspots from the Central West region. He says inshore mangrove snappers. Lots of mangoes holding on the ICW bridges and docks throughout the Daiquiri Deck region. Live or chunk pilchards is the best bait. And then offshore, permit. The bite remains strong over the reefs and wrecks in 70 to 110 feet of water. Live pass crabs are going to be the best bait. And then you can try to get out before the early morning or the early afternoon thunderstorms, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, Daiquiri Deck was a fun trip.
Yeah, man.
That was awesome seeing everybody there. It was a good turnout, too.
That's right.
All right, when it comes to bait in the Fish Bites East region, a gentle touch is appreciated and will go a long way when caught on the daily. So let's listen up to Mike Holliday to hear what's out there for us.
Hey, Britt, you know, everybody will tell you the least amount that you touch the bait, the better it'll stay lively, and that's really a big key. Bait's kind of a relative term for whatever the fish will eat. In my region, you know, there's the herrings, the Spanish sardines, which showed up in force in Jupiter and Palm Beach, big Spanish sardines this week. There's thread fins. A bunch of those are outside the St. Lucie Inlet on the Shark Barge and also on Greeny Rock. Or, you know, pilchards are your other option. There's a couple big schools of those traveling up and down the beach in St. Lucie County and also north of Vero Beach. For catching those baits, you know, a lot of guys will use the sabiki rig that Jeff talked about, a number 6 or number 4 fluorocarbon. I always use fluorocarbon just because the water's super clear. I use the R&R sabiki. I use the red for sardines and the green for the pilchards and thread fins. Another popular bait in my region is the Atlantic menhaden. We also call it a pogie. Now, it's a herbivore, so you can't catch it on a sabiki rig. You got to throw a cast net on that. You know, and I throw my net. I throw a 10-foot, half-inch Calusa net, just like Paige throws for those menhaden. You know, the ideal is you want a big net, you want to throw it once or twice and get enough in 1 or 2 throws and then go on and go fishing. We also in my region have boats that sell bait. Out of basically all the inlets, there's guys that sell bait. You can just pull up, hand us some cash, and depending on what species you're getting, you're paying anywhere from $15 a dozen to $100 a dozen for goggle eyes. And then on the reefs, you can catch grunts. They're the primo snapper and grouper baits, or you can always catch blue runners, goggle eyes, cigar minnows. Moving inshore, you can dip crabs from the bridges at night. Go to any of the bridges that have catwalks on the outgoing tides. The crabs will be up on top. You can work the shorelines during the daytime with a cast net for mullet or mohara or pinfish or even juvenile pilchards. Like I said, you always want to kind of handle it as little as possible. Every time you touch them, you knock the scales off, and that eventually kills the bait. Try and dip them out of the live well sort of one bait at a time instead of just scooping up a whole bunch of baits, because every time you scoop them, you're making them weaker. And then lastly, pick the liveliest bait first. It's real easy for a lot of people to go, oh, I'm going to use the weaker ones because they're not going to last long. But the lively one's the one that swims really well, that'll last and look really authentic. That's the one that's going to get the bite. So you want to grab the one that has the word turbo written on its side. I got a photo.
Got him.
That's the 10-foot Calusa net, man, in its finest. 1 throw, 2 live wells full of croakers. You just throw them in and head out. So let's talk about what else is going on. The next 3 weeks will be the most consistent catch and release snook action of the year, particularly around all the inlets and on the beachfront rock piles. At the Lake Worth Inlet, the fish are on the south side. In Jupiter Inlet, they're stacked on the north side. In St. Lucie and Fort Pierce Inlets, the fish seem to be schooled up on both sides. And then there's that beach fight. It's going on at places like the Juneau Pier, Polk Sound Wildlife Refuge, Sea Turtle Beach, Walden Rocks Beach. The beach fish aren't the ones that are actively spawning. Those are the fish in the inlet. So the beach fish are a lot more aggressive. With these calm seas, you can sight cast them. You can do it from shore or from a boat. Just drop your trolling motor and slide in. The fish are focused on juvenile pilchards, thread fins, and even on minnows that are holding tight to the beach. So if you want to get there early morning, throw a pilchard fly, anything that looks like a pilchard, a 4-inch saltwater assassin sea shad, you need a copper juice, a green hornet. That's pretty much money on those beach fish. The water's super clear. Once the sun gets up, the fish tend to see your lure or your fly better. So, you're going to do better with live bait, like a pilchard or a threadfin or a croaker. The snook are schooled up right now, so where you catch one, you'll catch more. Average snook right now is going to be 6 to 16 pounds. With fish to 25 pounds, I got a photo. That's James McDaniel with a snook he caught out of Stewart, and that fish ate a live croaker.
Yeah, he sure did. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Well, the last 4 or 5 days, there's been this great push of dolphin in my region. The fish are out a little bit deeper than normal, say like 200 to 1,000 feet of water more. There's not as many fish inside of 200 feet, but there has been good weed lines, a fair amount of floating debris. That's all holding fish. A lot of dolphin are that 6 to 10 pound class that you can kind of just sling in the boat. But there's also been some good fish in the mix as well, including 2 fish this week that were over 40 pounds. This is the time of year you just want to run and gun. Don't stop unless you see something that looks like it'll hold fish, like a floating rope or a log or a well-defined clump of weeds. When you find something that looks good, fish it 15, 20 minutes. If you don't get bit, move on. Live threadfin, sardine, troll ballyhoo, those are going to be preferred baits. Average dolphin's going to be like 5 to 15 pounds. The other bite, the reef fishing for mangrove snapper, it's just off the chain right now in 65 to 90 feet of water from Fort Pierce north all the way up towards Bethel Shoals. As long as there's a north flowing current, the snapper bites on. The current, if the current's dead or it's flowing south, the fish is shut off completely. You can use your trolling motor and hold in place, or you can drift that reef line. Best actions for the guys that are anchoring up, hanging a chum bag, and supplementing it with chunks of sardines, the cigar minnows, and even glass minnows, if you can get those. Once the fish come up in the chum, you can drift back a chunk with a hook in it, or you can drift back a small pilchard or sardine, or grunt plug, or a chunk of ballyhoo. Water's real clear, so drop down 20-pound braided line, 40-pound fluorocarbon leader, and 3.0 or 4.0 VMC tournament circle hook. Average mangrove right now, 2 to 4 pounds, but there are some big ones. I got a photo there. Adam Adams, he caught that nice mangrove snapper. He was fishing out of Port Pierce with Charlie Johnson. That fish had a sardine. That pegged the boga grip at 10 pounds.
Mike, you got 15 seconds on the bass report, bub.
Okay, Lake Okeechobee's in its summertime pattern. It'll stay that way for the next couple months. Key to finding fish is find the shad. Really get out on anywhere there's Kissimmee grass like Kings Bar, Buckhead Ridge, Horse Island, Dupree Bar. Start your day throwing a Bass Assassin, a lead shiner in the shad colors, or an all-white spinnerbait. Then go over to a live a shiner, work the Kissimmee River, work the drop-offs and the humps in the river. You'll do great. 30 fish morning, fish to 6 pounds.
All right, thank you so much, bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the T&H Marine hotspot from the East region. He says inshore, catch and release snook at the Jupiter Inlet. Live croakers, Spanish sardines, or threadfins inside the inlet along the north wall. And then offshore, swordfish in 1,570 feet of water off of Sloan's Curve. Day and night bite on squid, whole ladyfish, or maybe a dolphin belly.
15 seconds on Okeechobee. You crazy?
Hey, man. Dude spend too much time on the bait.
There's no such thing. We're making a cast to the Bell's Central East region next, but first we're getting all of the hows and what's out of our system at the CCA Workbench for Academy Sports Rigs and Techniques with Dave Farrell. Dave, what you doing?
I've got my own water feature over here. It's very tranquilo.
Oh, it is tranquilo.
I like to hear the sound of falling water.
Oh, no.
I think I might fall asleep.
Okay. Wake up. We'll be right back.
Okay.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Harbor Trucks. Visit harbortrucks.com. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats. Always in the game. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fishing info, and channel surfing. And Daiquiri Deck. Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
Titan and Titan XD Diesel from Harbor Trucks has America's best truck warranty, 5 years, 100,000-mile bumper to bumper, and can tow up to 12,000 pounds. Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of Titan XD and Titan in Florida, starting at $29,000. Harbor Trucks is conveniently located halfway between Tampa and Naples. Harbor Trucks, the place to buy.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower four-stroke, the all-new Yamaha F25, the new standard and 25 horsepower portable four-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower four-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's VTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle. When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Well, there's lots of goodies here at the CCA Workbench that can be found at the Academy Sports and Outdoors.
That's correct. That is correct.
So that's what the Rigs and Techniques is all about.
Right.
So,
well, we're talking tonight about bait, and we're going to talk a little bit about live baits and dead baits. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about live baits, and there's like 3 ways to get live bait. You can, well, 4 really, but you can catch it in a trap, you can use a cast net, or you can catch it on a hook and line, or you could buy it. Obviously. If you buy it, it's kind of expensive. Live bait's really expensive. It's kind of hard to take care of. That's another downside of having live bait. You have to have aerators and batteries and stuff to keep it oxygenated and cool. And also, you know, if you have a cast net and you're catching it in a net, you know, you have a tendency to get a lot of bait at once, but a lot of times some of the baits are beat up. So you have to go through and cull out the ones that you've tore up in the net. And, you know, so, you know, the whole thing of live baiting is kind of a pain in the butt. The good thing about live baiting is that nothing beats a live bait. Right. If you're using a live bait, you are, you know, way ahead of everybody else. If you can keep live baits alive, and that goes through from all fishing, from snook fishing all the way up through blue marlin fishing. If you're a guy who knows how to keep big tunas in a tube, you're going to have an upper hand on the other fellas who don't know how to do that stuff. So that's what you want to get to where you can take care of bait. And with me, I like to have a lot of different little ways to keep care of them. I have cooler aerators that work. I have ones that work on buckets for shrimp and stuff like that. And again, the best thing to do is to keep them cool and dark. So actually,
you turned your Yeti. How'd you do that?
Well, I have a Naughty Start battery here, Naughty Start, whatever it is, Nautic Start, and it goes in here and you just hit this little button, and it's a 12 volt, and you can turn a cooler into a really nice bait well. Right. And if you're using bigger baits, you're going to need a cooler because you don't want to put pilchards or goggle eyes in a bucket. Right. You're going to need something with a lot of water in it. You know, so, at least 40 or 50 gallons. You know, would be best. Right. These probably hold maybe 15, 20 gallons, but you can still put a couple dozen baits in there and keep them alive all day with a really good battery and a good aerator. Right. Even the little D-cell ones, last year I was able to keep a bunch of pilchards and goggle eyes alive in a little cooler all day long with one of those little doodads right there.
So quiet you can't even hear it. It's called the quiet bubbles.
The quiet bubbles, yeah. And it uses 2D batteries. Now, the best thing to do if you're going to be catching your bait, the best thing to use is a sabiki rig like these here from R&R Tackle. And there are different sabikis for different sizes. If you're going to be trying to catch pilchards, herrings, cigar minnows, and that sort of thing, you want to use the smaller ones, the 8-hook fluoros they got like a 10-pound main line and a 6-pound branch. They're pretty light. Right. But those little pilchards and stuff, they can see really well. So you're going to want to use something like that. Now for the larger baits, bonitas, goggle eyes, speedos, you can go up to the GI8, and it's got a 40 to 20 pound, 40-pound main, 20-pound branches. And if you want to get really big baits, big tunas and whatnot, then you get the blue runners.
30 to 15.
Yeah, well actually it's 50 to 50 pound
to 30.
Yeah, 50-pound main line and then 30-pound branches. And that'll catch nice big tunas and stuff. Yeah. Another important thing when you're catching, you were talking about not handling the baits, flip them over and put them right into the live well, especially if you're going to be putting them in a pen. You want to use a de-hooker, and you want to make sure that the de-hooker, the diameter of the rod is less than half the gap of the hook. Right. You don't want to be trying to stuff a big rod into that little tiny gap of the hook there. You want to use the little small ones for the small ones. And when you use a bigger sabiki, you want to go up in size with your de-hooker. Always just make sure. I got these, if you're going to go out and try to get dead baits, these are really good looking baits. You can take a look at these bait masters right here and tell they're good looking. They have a really clean eye. All the bills are straight and not broken. The tails are unbroken. Even though these are folded, they're not broken. They have big fat white bellies that aren't sunken in. You can tell that those are good bait.
And no brown.
And no brown, no blood in here. No, if you have a whole lot of blood or ice inside the bag, that's not a good thing. And if you're going to get these kind of baits, it's the same deal. You don't want to see any rust or corrosion on the hooks or all the rigging that are rigged up before you go. And again, not a whole lot of blood or anything. Just make sure and one way to get around any of that is just call Bait Masters of South Florida because all their bait is good. I've never gotten bad bait from those fellas.
Well, Bree, you should really be a master.
Okay, I am. That was baiting 101 over there. Thanks for that, Rick. Let's get our bait on in the Bell Central East region with Captain Jim Ross joining us via FaceTime. Hey, Jim, what's going on?
Hey gang, how y'all doing tonight? In the Bell Central East region, the bait can be just like us. Their preference can change from day to day, or I should say the fish's choice of bait can change from day to day. It can change from time of year. Heck, it can even change from one tide to the next. You just never know sometimes what the fish are going to want. And as a general rule, live offerings outperform dead baits most of the time. So which bait is right for you guys and gals? Well, this depends on the species you're targeting, the time of the year, and obviously what happens to be the most prevalent bait at that particular time. Now, there's some baits that are universal. Anything like a shrimp, a finger mullet, or a pilchard, they're all good examples of these. But sometimes the fish get really specific as to what bait they want at what specific time. Permit are a great example of this, and they usually eat just crabs. So if you're targeting them with something else, you're probably not going to catch them. Snook, on the other hand, will generally eat a wide variety of live baits here in the Central East region, but they can also be selective at times. They'll hit pinfish, mahara, and croaker on an outgoing tide, but they won't even look at them on an incoming tide. But you know what? Show them a big old live jumbo shrimp, and guess what? Wham! They're climbing all over that thing. So basically, what you need to do is just try to figure out what is the most prominent bait in the area at the time, and keep a track record, keep a log, so that you guys and gals can you can follow that from year in and year in and year in. And one of the easiest ways to catch bait is with an R&R bait rig. They have a bunch of different sabikis. The only thing that we really find here in the Central East region that doesn't really eat a sabiki is the menhaden, also known as the pogies. Now, they need really good water flow, and you can catch them with a cast net. So make sure that you have a good live well and a big cast net, and you should be able to get plenty of those. Now, as an example, Jesse Austin of Going Coastal Charters, I've got a picture here of him holding a nice red snapper. They only wanted to eat pilchards for him on one particular day, and he had some live pilchards, and so he came home with some nice fish. Going offshore, staying offshore, the king mackerel are really biting right now, and they can be anywhere from the beach, or they can be all the way out to the reef. But they got in on the beach this past week with this full moon, and they were really feeding hard because they were getting ready to spawn. Now what happened is they started to move back offshore for a couple of days, but now all the bait offshore sort of started moving back in. So they've all moved back into the beaches again. We're actually catching them right in the middle of the shipping channel at Port Canaveral, and don't be surprised if you don't find them at Sebastian Inlet Tide Line and at Ponce Inlet Tide Line. Most of our king mackerel right now are running 12 to 18 pounds, and you can get plenty of fish up into the 20 and even into the 30-pound range right now. Now, swinging inshore, one of your favorite species, Rick, we've got snook. The snook action has been really good at the inlets right now, and the big fish are packed in there to spawn for the summer. So live offerings are obviously the best way to target them. Mahara, croakers, and pinfish get the nod on most days. Now, if you're fishing out there at night, the Rapala X-Rap 14 or the Saltwater Assassin 5 to 6 inch swim baits in the black shad or smoking shad colors are getting hammered by the snook right now at nighttime. Now remember, you want to handle these fish with care because they are doing their spawn. They aren't as physically fit as they would be because the females are carrying those extra eggs, and the oxygen in the water isn't as good because the oxygen level is a little lower due to the high water temperatures. But they're still fun to pull on. Get them in, revive them properly, and you guys and gals can have some great pictures. Now I've got a photo here of Captain Glenn Austin with his son Noah, or his grandson Noah. And this is a great snook that Noah caught on a greenie that they were pitching at Sebastian Inlet.
Tell me about the trout,
My last
Bub.
species.
Yeah, go ahead.
Captain Mark Wright. I was talking with him, and he found the speckled trout really aggressive in the Mosquito Lagoon. And Mark says his go-to lures right now have been the storm chug bug in the morning. He's working these lures around the edges of the mullet pods that are congregating on the outside of the bars and drop-offs. The bigger trout that are running in the 18 to 25 inch range right now are usually right on the perimeters of those schools, so make sure that you get all around the outside edges with those topwater plugs. Now, Captain Mark is one of the best trout guides in the Bell Central East region. If you want to get a hold of him, you can get him at CaptainMarkWright.com to book a charter. And I've got a picture here that he sent in of Bill Stratton the other day. And those guys got out there on those Mosquito Lagoons flats and drop-offs and caught some pretty nice trout. This is just one of a bunch of them that they caught that day.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. It's time to read the hot spots from the Central East region. He says offshore, the gag grouper on the reefs and wreck structures in 160 to 250 feet. Use large live or chunk baits or 16 to 24 ounce deep jigs tipped with a ballyhoo. Then inshore, snook and all the inlet jetties. Use live pilchards, croakers on a pinfish on a knocker rig.
Well, Rick, I'm really excited. Good things come to those who bait and those who wait. The second iHeartRadio Star Tagged Redfish winner
Come on,
Did you hear me
chicken
say
dinner.
winner?
Winner.
Had to wait almost 4 years. He was registered every year. He's a CCA Life member, and he has chosen
The Pathfinder. Good choice,
my goodness,
my man.
Congratulations. This is actually very exciting. The next winner still has their choice of the contender on Rolls Axle Trailer, Hughes Redfisher, Carolina Skiff, or Relentless Aluminum Bay Skiff, all powered by Yamaha. But remember, there's still plenty of time to register, enter, and win. And it happens, as you can see, your opportunity to fish with one of our FIFR captains or your share of $500,000 in prizes and scholarships. Fantastic.
Dang.
That's how you do
Awesome.
it. All right, we're going to go look for some bait in the Bell's Southwest and Garmin Keys region next on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. So load up that cast net and sit tight. We'll be right back. Right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Swift, Silent, Secure, Bass Assassin, and Saltwater Assassin. The best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. Garmin, join the club. Kubota, find a Kubota dealer near you at gokubota.com. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of new and used car and truck inventory in Southwest Florida. Our used vehicle inventory goes through a 120-point inspection process performed by certified technicians. Exclusive to Florida Insider Fishing Report viewers is our Peace of Mind Harbor Truck Warranty. If you don't see what you're looking for, give us a call and we can get it for you. Go to harbortrucks.com and click on the Florida Insider Fishing Report tab.
Real Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you.
I'm 1,000 miles from nowhere, and there's no place I'd rather be. I'm 1,000 miles from nowhere, and time don't matter to me, 'cause I'm 1,000 miles from nowhere.
Hey guys, Captain Rick Murphy here, and I thought it would be really cool to talk about a little 101 when it comes to propping out your boat. You know, you need to understand that whether it's a repower or buying new boats, props are changing, motors are changing all the time. So I'm going to give you a couple things that really work and that you can really have a more educated guess when it comes to starting to make the right decisions. Now understand, guys, that 4-blade props are going to hold a tremendous amount of water, and it's also going to allow you to run your jack plate, like I do on my Pathfinder, extremely high. What I also have to be careful of when I'm running the jack plate high is potentially overheating the motor. Now the 4 blades have this crazy ability to give you great hole shots, as well as they have the ability to really, allow you to run very, very shallow. So keep in mind that 4 blades, if you need to run shallow and you're not worried about speed, that would be a good place to start. Now this turbo, this propeller, as you can see, has a much smaller hub. But as you can tell, the blades themselves are raked way back, which has a tendency to give you a little bit more speed. This propeller also have what we consider as wall cup. And the wall cup allows you to hold a lot of water whenever the boat is being trimmed out. So you can trim the engine a lot higher. Now, the downfall about 4-blade props is simple. You have more blades as you're going forward, which creates more drag on the back side of the blades, and they have a tendency to be considerably slower and maybe not as efficient because you're not going as fast and you're taking a longer period of time to get there. So the 3 blades are the prop if you want to go fast that you might want to pick. Now keep in mind that 3 blades certainly are very, very fast. Big diameter propellers seem to be the way to go, whether you have a big center console with triple motors. The middle prop usually is a 4 blade because it has water that's approaching it from the left and the right and has a tendency to create its own cavitation. So Contender is putting 4 blades on a lot of the middle motors to help offset any cavitation that you might have in rough seas. So I'm going to tell you that this is some of the key points that you might want to remember, because bow lift is going to come from the wall cups that we're talking about versus rake is going to give you more speed. So you can go to either YamahaOutboards.com. They have a whole bunch of prop information there, or you can go down to your local Yamaha dealer.
Rick, that was pretty good. Props to you.
Oh, daggone. That's why she's been here for so long.
Yeah, well, you know. All right, Captain Ronnie Houston in the Bell Southwest region is pretty cut and dry when it comes to your bait options. So let's listen up and hear what he has to say. Tell us, Ronnie.
Well, you know what? Like always, it's a pleasure representing the Bell Southwest region. But, you know, depending on what time of year it is, it's going to really be dictating where you're going to be using. You know, your wintertime, colder months, late fall into early spring, you're going to be going with the live shrimp, cutting shrimp on the bottom like a knocker rig, or simply tipping bucktail jigs with shrimp for most of your inshore species like snook, redfish, trout, snappers, drums, and sheephead. But as well as offshore for the snappers and groupers, but also cut squid, herring, and sardines, which can be bought at most tackle shops throughout the region. Now, in the spring through early fall, things really change due to the warmer weather. A large variety of baits will work both inshore and offshore, and that's actually what's going on in the moment. You know, your live pilchards, your herring, your pinfish will catch your snook, your redfish, your trout, snappers. These fish are going to chase down your baits, unlike wintertime fishing when they're not as aggressive due to the cooler water and the cool water temps. Now, live crabs and live herring and live pinfish will actually work good for the tarpon and the permits. And even though the offshore side consists of many different baits for your groupers, your snappers, your porgies, which these fish will eat all live baits, herring, sardines, cigar minnows, and pinfish, all you really need, especially if you're a beginner, stop by your local tackle shop and ask for a box of chum. That'll draw your snappers and yellowtails. And you know, your sardines, herring, and squid cut up on the bottom will catch most bottom feeders throughout the region. And simply cut baits in the wintertime, more of your live baits as the water temperatures warm up in the later spring. Now, on the offshore side, the tunas. Captain Mike Ivan reports, you know, while everybody's out making the runs to catch the groupers and the snappers, don't discount the schools of baits on top as you're running out. You'll see them getting busted on top of the water. You know, they're really mostly bonitas, but there are tuna mixed in. So he's telling me once you hit the depths of about 80 to 100 feet and beyond, keep an eye out for these crashing baits. Get in the area where they're crashing and simply drift through the area with some pitch baits like herring, sardines, and cigar minnows, as well as getting in the areas and trolling the outskirts around the baits, eating with maybe some blue or white feathers or purple and black. He recommends 50-pound mono, but then also if you're anchored up on the bottom fishing, always have a couple live baits free-lined out. And there's a prime example of some nice tunas caught by simply working the method I just explained. Now, on the inshore side, the redfish. Captain Josh Greer of Westwall Outfitters up to the north says the redfish bite has improved dramatically, fishing tight to the bushes on the higher stages of the tidal on the Westwall, Bull, and Turtle Bay, simply throwing small shrimp or crab patterns if you're into fly fishing on the edges of the bushes. If you want to use spin or live bait, root beer, colored paddle tails on a jig head, subsurface lure 6 inches to 2 feet, gold spoons, also cut pinfish, ladyfish, and mullet as it heats up in the day on a knocker rig. That keeps the bait stationary for these fish to smell them. And I got a prime example of a nice redfish caught by 15-year-old Gavin Savino up in the upper end of the region. Also, the snooks now. Captain Josh Greer reports Sanibel the Stump Pass, like they've talked about in the last couple weeks, fishing the beaches and the passes. If you're a fly guy and you want to walk the beach, small white bait fish patterns on fly. But if you're an artificial guy or live bait guy, also white 4-inch soft plastic battle tails on a jig head like the Bass and Sea Shad, live pilchards, but down in the southern end of the region, you can concentrate right now from Marco to Indian Key along the outer beaches, Cape Romano, and the outer Gulf Islands by simply using live pilchards, herring, Repaller skittlewalks and chartreuse, bone chartreuse, holographic orange, white and chartreuse bucktails, and 4-inch swim baits in white, olive and chartreuse. And I have a picture of a nice fish that was caught up in the northern end of the region by Captain Corey McGuire. Weather is looking great this weekend to do some fishing, so get on out and do some inshore and offshore fishing with the patterns I just explained.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. We're going to take a look at the Catty Can hotspots from the southwest region. He says inshore, triple tails, fish from Indian Key to Plover Key using fishing the deadwood along the shorelines, as well as the blowdowns, markers, crab pots using live shrimp, pilchards, finger mullets, and soft plastics. Shrimps, and then also gags and scamp groupers and red groupers fish the Gordons past the Sanibel 120 to 140 feet using live sardines, pinfish, and cut baits on the bottom. You know, when I checked that, I obviously didn't check that.
Fast. You did not check that.
I didn't.
Rick, we have a winner.
We do.
Yeah, from our Bell's in-store contest we had a few weeks ago. Who wins a fishing trip with you and I?
What?
That's exciting, right?
It's
okay,
over.
should we announce who it is?
Yes,
okay.
let's go.
Drum roll. Congratulations to Daniel P. from St. Petersburg. We're looking forward to a great day on the water with you very soon.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So
call me, I'll book you.
Call me. All right, there's lots of options in the Garmin Keys region when it comes to the type of bait you're going to want. So let's get Captain Randy Tao on the line to tell us the types of bait we're going to need. Hi, Randy.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Garmin Keys region, live bait is really important, and we all catch it sometime throughout the day for whatever you're going to fish for. It might be something in the backcountry, it might be something on the ocean, but either way, you're going to be looking for bait, and there's several ways to do it. Now, kind of the old-fashioned way was to have your cast net and to go anchor down and put a chum bag out, and your bait would come up. You throw the net on them, and it might be pilchards, it might be ballyhoos or cigar minnows. And lately, what a lot of guys do is they use a sabiki rig. An R&R sabiki, for example, is a great sabiki to use to catch bait because that's going to be a quality bait. It's going to hold up a lot better throughout the day, and you're going to have bait for the entire day. You might not catch, 200 or 300 in a throw, but if they're schooled up pretty good, you can catch them pretty quick with a couple of rods and 6 hooks on it, and it's a great way to do it. Use a D-hooker and drop them off in the live well so you never touch them, and that's really what a lot of these guys do to have pristine bait throughout the day. If you're in a hurry and you want to throw that net and keep going, then that's fine, but your bait, you're going to pay the price for it with your bait. You're not going to have as good a quality of a bait throughout the day. And I can tell you one thing, a lot of these tournament guys, they really are particular about how they handle their bait as well. So when you're putting bait away, for example, don't stick your net in and get 20 or 30 of them at a time. Maybe take 2 at a time and just take your time putting those baits into your bait cage and use a very fine mesh net to do that with, and you're going to have bait for a long time in your bait pens.
All right, Randy.
Going offshore,
yeah, let's do it.
Dolphin fishing right now, this week, the last few days, has just been as good as it gets for big ones. Not a lot of schoolies, not a lot of small fish right now. I've heard of several 40 and 50 pounders being caught off a marathon. Marty Lewis on the main attraction, he had some big fish the last few days, upwards of 50 pounds. Paul Ross on the Relentless out of Bud and Mary's, he had fish over 40 pounds. And it's just interesting, for some reason in July, we get a run of big dolphin, and it's been that way up and down the Keys. Now, going a little further south, down off of Key West, Captain Chris Trossett, he was telling me that they've got a great bite on dolphin down there as well, from about 600 to 800 feet, and they've been getting into them pretty good. Not really big ones, but plenty of schoolies and gaffers and things like that, but he's real happy with what he's finding. He sent me this picture of his young angler, Parker, with a nice dolphin he caught on his fly rod.
All right.
awesome.
All right, let's go inshore, dude.
You know, the backcountry this time of year, it's my favorite time to fish for permit and snook and tarpon and all kinds of things. Well, the permit fishing lately has been very good. The weather's been key. It's been calm, and it's been hot, and it's been clear with not a lot of clouds, so the visibility's great, and a lot of these fish are schooled up. And what you'll see from a distance when you're running, you can see these fish on the surface, and they'll actually be flashing, or you might see their tails out of the water, and some of these schools might be 50 to 200 fish in them, and you want to approach them carefully. Put your trolling motor down and get up to them and throw that live crab in front of them on a 15 to 20 pound spinning rod, and you're certainly going to get the job done. Now, I found some the other day, and I couldn't catch them. We didn't have any live crabs, and Captain Brian Williams with Serenity Charters out of Islamorada, he sent me this picture, and he showed me that they do bite those yellow jigs.
Yeah, man. I've been catching them on those yellow jigs myself, the goofy jig, you know. All
Well,
right.
You keep telling me. I know they eat a crab.
There's your little trick. All right. How about some tarpon?
The tarpon fishing's been early in the morning. I recommend leaving the dock pretty early, getting out there, because a lot of the great fishing is the first couple hours of light. And guys have been getting on them around the Flamingo area, and some of these fish they're catching on live pinfish, also with mullet, dead mullet on the bottom. And a lot of your live bait right now, if you were to fish a live mullet, the catfish and the sharks are so bad, it's hard to keep it away from them for the tarpon to find it. So these guys are fishing them on the bottom, and anything past about 10 o'clock, it's been a little harder to find them. But there's been plenty around. This time of year, we get kind of a Gulf run, if you will, of tarpon in the backcountry now through about October, and there's some really nice fish back there. I was talking to Captain Johnny Johansson. He's a guide out of Bud and Mary's Marina, and he sent me this picture. I don't know how big a tarpon this is, but it was a nice one.
Oh, that is a nice one. All right, thanks for all the pictures this week, Randy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Florida Keys region. He says inshore, tarpon fish early in the morning around the Flamingo area. Put your baits out even if you don't see them rolling. And then offshore, dolphin. Look for the birds in the weeds and 400 feet on out. Check the weeds for dolphins swimming under them. Idle right up to them.
The birds in the weeds, like the birds in the bee. Okay, now let's take a look at some tournaments going on in the Florida Keys, shall we? Some 43 species are targeted at the Key West Fishing Tournament, a free entry multi-division challenge that continues through August 31st. Catches and witnessed releases can be entered at several tackle shops throughout the Lower Keys and Key West or at the tournament's website. Key West Robert James Slam Tournament, set for September 6th through the 8th, targets tarpon, permit, and bonefish, so anglers can aim for the coveted Flats Grand Slam. The event raises funds for cystic fibrosis treatment and research. Reef Environmental Education Foundation's 10th Upper Keys Lionfish Derby is set for September 13th through the 15th and is hosted by the Postcard Inn in Islamorada. Activities feature awards for lionfish captured, fillet demonstrations, games, raffle prizes, and more. The Herman Lucerne Memorial Backcountry Fishing Championship is set for September 20th through the 22nd in Islamorada. It raises funds to support angler-based initiatives in Everglades National Park and Florida Bay. For more information on all tournaments in the Florida Keys, go to flakeys.com. And now we're going to head over to the new products for CCA Workbench. Dave, you're looking a little,
What?
I don't know, just a little different over there.
Well, we're talking about
Congested.
these cool little new products today. Good things for the bottom fishing. These little tentacles will catch everything.
Oh my goodness.
Dave's got
He's
port,
got me.
port and starboard
Port and
coming out of
starboard.
his
I love
nose,
it.
a green and a red.
All right, we'll be right back.
Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. For all, for less. Soft Science, Supreme Comfort Footwear. Real Legends, exclusively at Bell's. Okuma, inspired fishing. Discover Crystal River, Florida. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
you aim a 36-yard shot with a 30-yard fixed pin at a 15-degree angle with a 7-inch holdover without moving a single pin? Easy. You get one of these. Zero, the auto-ranging digital bow sight from Garmin.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench and we talk about new products. And Dave, you have the Hydro Wave by TH Marine.
Yes, I do. It's the H2 inshore saltwater version, and this little thing is pretty much, it's underwater hydrophone. And a long time ago, some fellas down here in Miami did some experiments with sharks, and they figured out that if you had low frequency pulse noise, boom, 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 like that, it would draw sharks, because they're attracted to that. And pretty much this is the same thing for all kinds of fish. And what it does is they've recorded a lot of different sounds of different game fish and different bait, and recorded it on this unit, and you can play it through your speaker there, that hydrophone underneath the water. It's a waterproof speaker that plays underneath the water. And you can play, they got croaker sounds and shrimp sounds, both passive
herring.
and, all kinds of bait.
Mullets.
Mullet, croakers, and crabs, surface bait, and all kinds of stuff. And you can play 16 different sounds, and you can also have it play through the loop continuously or delay for 30 seconds or whatever you want to do. So go find you one of those things. Get one of those things that makes them eat, makes the fish eat.
For guys that don't
supposedly.
throw the cast net very well, just turn on your Hydro Wave.
There you
bring
go.
them right close, and then you just throw your cast net over the side. Maybe even potentially you could dip a crab or two.
Maybe.
That would be cool.
Next we got the Costa Dry Box here. When you're going offshore and you're taking your phone and whatnot and keys, you want to make sure you put them in a place that's going to stay dry and not get lost. And this is a perfect little box for it. It's got a nice rubber gasket inside, keep things watertight and waterproof. And it's got a nice positive lock on it when you know it's closed, and when it's not, it's got a lanyard on the side. You can attach it to a backpack or hang it on the boat somewhere.
Right.
And just a great thing to keep track of all your stuff when you go boating.
You can also put your Costas in here too.
Correct.
Keeps them from getting crushed.
I'm usually wearing them, but you can put them on there too.
No, that's your extra set.
Exactly. I always have an extra pair.
Of course.
Next we got some Crappie Dapper, the 2-inch Crappie Dappers, and this is a new color as well. I just love these things because
Panfish assassins.
It's called a Crappie Dapper, but I catch a lot of bass on it, and I'm sure that redfish would eat it and trout would eat it because that little tail kicks like a mother. This is a brand new color here, the pink and lime. Just a really cool little
color. Look at
color.
how that look. If that doesn't look like
I'm
a little
telling you.
glass
That little
minnow.
ghost. I put that on one of those little Roadrunner heads with a little spinner on it,
right?
And everything will eat it. Just everything will eat it. I catch big bass on that little thing. 27 colors and that little thumping tail for the Crappie Dappers. Go get you some of those things.
Okay.
Next we got some bottom candy. Those things I had hanging out of my nose earlier. The soft plastic flavored tentacle. There's nobody in the world making this. Is the only guy in the world who's making these little tentacles, and he puts squid flavoring in them. Says you can catch everything on them, and know that everything eats octopus and everything eats squid. So I imagine if you put one of those on a jig head, or even just put it on a regular hook.
So here's how it would look with a jig head. I think this could really be something here, Dave.
I think that would go on the bigger one though. Put a bigger one on there, wouldn't you?
Man, come on, Dave.
All
I'm
right.
an inshore guy. Watch how this works,
Yeah,
Bubba.
okay.
I catch monster things with little things.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at that.
That's
Look
true.
at that. Tell me that
It's
doesn't
gonna
look
work.
pretty.
It's gonna work.
All right.
And they got the great big ones too.
Well,
they
we
get
need a big old
6.
hook for that.
They got 10-inch and 12-inch even. They say you can troll them if you want to, like a strip bait, if you rig it correctly. But
nice.
But there you go, man. That's what we got.
Excellent.
Bottom candy.
All right.
Hydro Shore.
Speaking
Hydro Wave.
of our candy.
Oh,
eye
good
candy.
one.
There
She is an
is.
eye candy.
She's even
All right.
dressed in yellow
I
tonight.
am. I'm looking very bright tonight, bright and right.
Big
All
banana.
right. If bait is what you want in the Casa Vieja Southeast region, bait is what you're going to get if you carefully follow the instructions Captain Jimbo Thomas is about to tell you. Jimbo, they're all yours.
That's right, Eye Candy here. How you doing, Bree, Rick, and Dave? If you're watching this show, congratulations, because you obviously survived mini-season. But, talking about bait here in the Southeast region, a block of chum, couple packs of sabikis, a cast net or a hoop net, or a pocket full of cash, that's all you need to fill that live well up. There's plenty of great spots to catch bait throughout the region. Blue Heron Bridge in Lake Worth, any of the fishing piers along the coast, in and around all of the inlets, navigational markers and buoys, and also around the numerous bait patches. Now, we like to use sabikis. That's the preferred method for catching threadfins, threadfin herrings, pilchards, goggle-eyed sardines, cigar minnows, blue runners, speedos, and pinfish. And the chum will usually bring those baits close to the boat pretty quickly. Now, about the only time we use a cast net is on pilchards, mullet, and ballyhoo, but the hook and line baits will definitely live a lot better than those cast netted baits. And if you use a D-hooker and try not to handle those baits, they'll stay a lot more lively, and also that'll save your hands from those sabiki hooks. Now, aboard the Thomas Flyer, we use an assortment of R&R tackle sabikis, and we found that depending on what you're fishing for, those rigs work well for all kinds of bait fish. And of course, you need a good-sized bait well with lots of water flow. That'll help keep those baits alive for days. We also like to keep a couple fresh bonita in the cooler, and we use those for cut bait for dolphin, or we cut strips out of them to troll with. Now, staying inshore, from Lake Worth Inlet south to Government Cut, the snook fishing has been pretty good. Get out to your local inlet in the evenings. You want to drift live baits on both the incoming or the outgoing tide, but just about any good live bait's going to work. Herrings, pilchards, pinfish, croakers, whatever's around your part of the region. Now, you want to fish those live baits on a Jupiter rig with 40-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 5.0 to 6.0 circle hook. Also, jigs and soft plastics are working if you want to bounce those along the bottom. And some of these snook have been up to 20, 25 pounds, but don't forget, it's catch and release until September 1st. Now, moving offshore, we're still finding some mahi or dolphin on a pretty regular basis, and the size in the last couple of days seems to have gotten a little better. We're still finding some schools of small fish, but every now and then we're coming upon a school of fish that are in the 4 to 6 pound range. And just like in the past month, these fish have been offshore anywhere from about 5 to 12 miles. We're finding them around sargassum weed, floating debris, and under birds. And their larger fish have been traveling to the south at a pretty good rate, and at times they're kind of tough to stay in front of. Now, the few of the fish are being caught on the troll if you can find an area that the seaweed's not too bad, using rig ballyhoo, small lures. And then once we locate those fish, we're casting small live baits to them, small blue runners, cup bonita, and ballyhoo. There's also been plenty of bait under any of the weed patches that are out there, so keep your sabiki rod ready. And if you don't have any live bait, drop that sabiki rod down there and catch some of them small blue runners. That's exactly what those fish are eating. Now, I got a photo here. This nice cow dolphin was caught a couple days ago off Miami aboard Jeff Stream with Captain Jeff Steiner. Now, staying offshore, the nighttime snapper fishing has been really good throughout the region, especially for mangrove snappers. There's also been some muttons and yellowtails mixed in, and with all this heat we've had during the day, getting out in the evenings is not really a bad idea. Now, these snapper have been hanging on the outside reef in 40 to 80 feet of water. They're being caught on dead sardines, silversides, and pilchards. You want to fish them on the bottom with a knocker rig. Use a 20 to 30-pound leader and a 1.0 to 3.0 hook. The guys aboard the Reward fishing out of Miami, they've been fishing out on the outside reef line off Government Cut. They've been finding mangroves from anywhere from 2 to 6 pounds, and they say the best bite's been after about 9 o'clock at night, 9 p.m. And also there's been pilchards and goggle eyes coming up in the lights. They're catching those on the sabikis, putting them down for bait, and some of the larger fish have been coming on those fresh live baits. But like it's been in the past, the sharks have been a real problem, so you got to get your fish up before the sharks get them.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from inshore. He says look for the snook in all the inlets off the beaches in the evening and early mornings where they're eating live and artificial baits. And then offshore, cast live and cut baits to dolphin offshore under the birds, around the patches of sargassum, and any floating debris.
All right, we're filling up those live wells in the Strike Zone Northeast and Yeti Panhandle regions next. But before we go, we want to remind you that if you would like to be up to date on all things fishing in Florida, visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube, and check us out on Instagram. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala, another great day. Startron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Yeti, built for the wild. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Titan and Titan XD Diesel from Harbor Trucks has America's best truck warranty, 5 years, 100,000-mile bumper-to-bumper, and can tow up to 12,000 pounds. Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of Titan XD and Titan in Florida, starting at $29,000. Harbor Trucks is conveniently located halfway between Tampa and Naples. Harbor Trucks, the place to buy.
Oh, there it is.
You can either stay busy fishing or get busy catching. From Texas to Tampa Bay or Key West to the Carolinas and beyond. For nearly 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites. Ask for Fish Bites and Fish Bites Fight Club lures by name or visit fishbites.com.
Find Florida's soul and discover Crystal River. Explore warm Gulf waters, spring-fed rivers, bountiful lakes, and fantastic fishing. Dive into adventure and enjoy the only place in the world where you can swim with the manatees. Treat yourself and your family to outdoor fun, rich history, and a relaxed coastal lifestyle. Discover Crystal River, Florida.
Welcome back. Rick, you know, I don't know anyone, including myself, who isn't in need of a fishing trip at a world-class resort with a world-class fishing. So here is your chance, guys. Harbor Trucks has partnered with Casa Vieja Lodge to send 2 lucky winners to Guatemala for a 4-day, 3-night trip to fish with Rick and me at Casa Vieja Lodge. All you have to do is enter by heading over to our website at FloridaInsiderFishingReport.com. It's really that easy.
Me and you.
Me and you.
We're
and me.
going there.
We're going there. All right, let's dive into the Strike Zone Northeast region and see what Captain Tommy Derringer has to say about the bait options. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, guys. Man, I want to go on that trip, but yeah, that sounds awesome.
Enter.
All right, enter.
All right. You know what, guys? We've got all kinds of different baits here in the Strike Zone Northeast region. Our year-round staples for inshore live bait, they're going to be shrimp and mud minnows. And, you know, pretty much all of our inshore game fish eat one or the other or both of those baits. A quarter-ounce jig head with a live shrimp or a mud minnow is going to be the go-to for redfish, trout, and flounder pretty much year-round. Now, there's so many different baits to talk about offshore, but, you know, right now, frozen sardines or cigar minnows are getting a lot of use on the bottom for all kinds of snapper and grouper. And, of course, the kingfish guys are always on the lookout for menhaden, better known as pogies in my region. Now, the pogies have been a little scarce this summer, but there are some big pods of them just north of the desert between St. Augustine and Jacksonville Beach. The tarpon, sharks, and kingfish, they're going to be in those pods all summer long. Now, the pogies, they're really a versatile bait. You can fish them up on the top, on the bottom. You can troll them. You know what? They make for some awesome cut bait, both inshore and along the beach. And just about everything is going to eat those guys. And if you're looking to bend a rod, you can just about always find something big around those pogie pods. Now, inshore, the finger mullet have been getting thicker by the minute, and all our inshore species are fired up to eat those mullet. Now, cut mullet is also a great bait for redfish through our summer months. Redfish love that stinky piece of cut mullet next to an oyster bar. Now, if you're fishing inshore over the next couple of months, don't forget your cast net, because having some mullet in the live well, that's going to come in really handy. Now, moving offshore, guys, we've got a killer mango bite happening throughout the region right now. I spoke to Captain Jason Hodges from jhookfishingcharters.com, and he tells me although we've been on the hunt for the red snapper the last couple of weekends, he's been catching some really big mangrove snapper as well. Now, Jason will fish reefs and wrecks in 80 foot and deeper, and he's going to chum the mangroves up away from the structure towards the surface. He's going to cut sardines into small chunks and then he's going to drift the piece back on a small 3/0 circle hook attached to a pretty long 20 to 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Those snapper, they're running about 8 to 10 pounds, and I've seen some way bigger ones coming in. And speaking of bigger ones, I've got a picture here. There's a couple of Captain Jason's clients with some big old mangoes they caught aboard his boat, the J-Hook, this past week.
Man, those are nice mangroves. All right, let's go inshore, big man.
All right, you know what? I got to talk flounder again this week. It's one of our summertime staples, and there's quite a few of those flatfish around. Just about any creek throughout the region is going to hold them on the last of the outgoing tide. This weekend, that tide's going to be getting extra low. We've got a negative low tide coming, and that's going to have the flounder bunched up. At the mouths of the small runouts where you'll see concentrations of bait fish on the low tide, that's going to be a perfect place to cast a 1/4-ounce jig and a mud minnow. Now, I've had my clients tossing a Houdini-colored saltwater assassin paddle tail on a 1/4-ounce jig to those runouts this week. And I just have them work the jig really slow. And I tell them, imagine that the lure is just puffing little poofs of mud as it hops along the bottom. And we've actually had better luck fishing that paddle tail than we did using the mud minnows this week. Now, there's also some nice flounder at the inlet. Find some of those choice-sized finger mullet and fish the low tide on the bottom, around the rocks and around the docks, in and around the inlets. Now, I've got another picture here. This is Maria Lupe Lopez with a nice doormat flounder she caught near Matanzas Inlet this past week.
All right.
Now, also, yeah, you know what? We've had a great tarpon season so far here in the Strike Zone Northeast region, and it's continued to be great this week. The tarpon are still in the pogie pods and behind the shrimp boats throughout the region. And I've had reports of tarpon feeding in the pods from Fernandina all the way to Ponce Inlet, so pretty much all the way anywhere along the beach throughout the region. The tough thing has been finding the bait, but if you put in the time and the gas money, you can probably find the bait and you're going to find some tarpon. Now, we've made some long runs looking this week, but we've been rewarded with some really big fish. I'm going to fish a live pogie or a mullet around the bait pods on a 7 to 10-aught circle hook, either going to free line them or put it under a cork. Now, the bite behind the shrimp boats, it's slowed down maybe a little bit, but if you wait around in the chum slicks long enough, sometimes you got to wait 30, 45 minutes, you'll probably have a shot or two at some tarpon. Now, I've got one last picture here, guys. This is my good buddy, Ryan Leonardi, with a tarpon he caught with me this week, just north of the Volano Inlet, right there along the beach.
All right, thank you so much, Tommy. We're going to take a look at the Rodan Marine hotspots from the Northeast region. He says inshore, flounder and redfish on the negative low tide in the creek holes throughout the entire region. Use mud minnows, tipped jigs, or saltwater assassin paddle tails bumped along the bottom. And then offshore, mangrove snappers, 80 to 120 feet of water in the reefs and wrecks. Chum, and use cut sardines, Bree.
Rodan, I'm
Rodan.
loving it.
Yeah,
All
man.
right, Captain Pat Deneen is taking us catching, not fishing, in the Yeti Panhandle region, and there's a good reason for the difference. Talk to us, Pat.
Hey, Bree, many times having the right or the best bait is the difference between fishing and catching. Like anywhere, you're going to have offshore baits of choice and inshore baits of choice. In the Yeti Panhandle region, like anywhere, baits of choice depend on what you're going to be fishing for. Offshore, amberjacks are opening up soon. Blue runners are excellent baits and can be caught on sabiki rigs or jigs at the inlets and also along the beach sandbars. And the blue runners also make superb baits for live bait and yellowfin tuna at the rigs or for free lining for big king mackerels over the deeper reefs. But the catch anywhere, anything Gulf bait are the cigar minnows and the herrings. And they can also be caught on sabiki rigs fishing outside the inlets, especially on that morning incoming tide. Or my favorite way to get them is to call Channel 80, Destin Live Bait, and get a scoop of baits from Steve and be on your way. Inshore this time of year, it's pilchards and pogies. If you want to use them for bait, you better learn how to throw a net. Pogies are in the bayous and pilchards are on the grass flats, especially near the inlets. An 8-foot net will work well, but a 10-foot works way better. And the timing for the show featuring bait, it's appropriate to say farewell to Tony, the blue bait guy over in Pensacola. He passed away this week. The live bait guys work hard every day to meet the daily live bait demand. And although I never met him, I'm sure Tony's going to be missed by the Pensacola fishing community. Staying inshore, tarpon fishing is starting to slow down through most of the Panhandle, with the majority of the migrating fish having passed through. But the fish that decided to resident have homesteaded in Apalachicola in a big way. Captain Sean Chalker of Bar Hopping Charters reports some epic fish in the past several days. He's fishing the beaches between Indian Pass and West Pass, and also within West Pass. And Captain Sean is jumping 15 to 20 fish a morning. so he sounds like he's doing real well over there. Technique is to find the bait, like Tommy just said, the pogie schools, and cast pogies on 100-pound leaders and circle hooks or use swim baits. This time of year, you can encounter a 40-pound tarpon or a 180-pound tarpon, so it's probably best to use fairly heavy terminal tackle. In that stained water over in Apalachicola, you can get away with some heavy leaders in that 100-plus pound range. And there's a photo sent to me by Captain Sean with a tarpon jumping on the string using conventional tackle. And how that angler kept a hold of that rod, holding it where it is, that surprises me. That was my first thought, but nice picture.
All right, well, let's go offshore.
Moving, staying offshore, Rick, the dolphin. There's been a lot of debris and grass offshore, and if you find an area that has that grass and debris, you're going to find some mahi-mahis. Captain Brady Bowman on the boat up out of Destin told me they found nice grass lines and patches 40 to 60 miles south of Destin, basically in the spur area and a little bit south and east. Water is always moving, so look at satellite imagery and to find where the blue-green colored edges are. Troll ballyhoo and ballyhoo lure combinations. Have a spinning rod rigged and ready to take advantage of a boom or bust situation. The dolphins are running anywhere from chickens to bulls. And then finally offshore, it does appear like Tropical Storm Barry left us with some nice bottom fishing as a gift. Often a tropical system coming up from that southeast and passing by will bring some great bottom fishing. And there's been plenty of gag groupers being caught and some really nice ones being caught. Fish natural bottom and wrecks in 150 to 200 feet of water with a live or butterfly bait, fish close to the bottom, and the gags are running 15 to 30 pounds.
All right, thank you so much, Pat. Great report from the Yeti Panhandle region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots. He says inshore, the game is on in Apalachicola, West Pass for tarpon, and use pogies or swim baits for those dudes. And then offshore, you want to go to the blue water and find weed lines and catch plenty of those dorados.
That sounds good.
You can wear that shirt.
I could.
That might attract them.
It might. All right, the Discover Crystal River Northwest region is on deck next for some bait talk. So stay with us while we take a short break right here on the Florida
Insider
Fishing
Report.
Oh, we're so good. Teamwork makes a dream work.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Harbor Trucks. Visit harbortrucks.com. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Suffix. Always use the best line. The IGFA. Fish for the world. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure, and Bells, everything you need to live life local.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO Offshore.
It's a different kind of work week out here. You need the power, performance, and enough attachments to scratch any itch. A subcompact tractor built to get any job done right. The Kubota BX Series, best-selling subcompact tractor in America. Now get a BX 1880 for payments as low as $99 a month for 84 months plus a 6-year warranty. 54-inch mower deck included.
Find a Kubota dealer near you at gokubota.com.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of new and used car and truck inventory in Southwest Florida. Our used vehicle inventory goes through a 120-point inspection process performed by certified technicians. Exclusive to Florida Insider Fishing Report viewers is our Peace of Mind Harbor Truck Warranty. If you don't see what you're looking for, give us a call and we can get it for you. Go to harbortrucks.com and click on the Florida Insider Fishing Report tab.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the Power Pole spike. Now, it's really important to have the right presentation. These tarpon and permit are swimming down the edge of the flat, and by only using the power pole off the back, the wind would blow us up on the flat and we wouldn't be laying on the edge where we're waiting for these fish to swim by. So, the great part about the spike is it allows us to manipulate the way the boat lays in the channel and in the current and wind. The other thing that we use the spike for is when we go down sandbarring, a lot of times you have a lot of extra rope when anchoring, and that can be problematic. People will run over your ropes. You also have to have one at the front and one at the back because of the current and the wind. So by utilizing 2 spikes, it's absolutely perfect. Now remember, the spike comes with a rope already attached, so simply all you gotta do is stick it in the sand. And that's today's power pole tip. Well, I'm gonna tell you, not a bad tool to have in your contender or your pontoon boat or any boat when you go to the sandbar, and you can put one in the front, one in the back. Now you don't have to worry about anchor ropes being all over the place, other people running over your stuff.
Stubbing your toe.
Oh, it's the best. They really are. I mean, power poles just always staying ahead of the curve. I love it.
I love
Thank
it
you
too.
guys.
I love the
That's
spike.
a great tool for us.
All right, the importance of the right bait is critical in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region. So let's hear from Captain Jeff Hageman on the specifics.
Well, you guys know I'm on that white bait relocation program, and it is the most important way to start your day. Having the right bait to target the species you're after is key. As far as bait go, there's a bunch commonly used in my region as far as shrimp, pinfish, pigfish, scaled sardines, threadfin, herring, Spanish sardines, mullet are probably some of the most common, and catching these have their own challenges to start your day off. Some can be bought in local bait shops. Cast netting is very popular in my region to catch sardines. If you haven't thrown one, an 8 to 12 foot net and 3/8 is probably the most common. With a little practice in the backyard, you can get pretty good at it before you get on the water. Sardines can be caught on the grass flats, bridges, piers. Chumming them up will concentrate them and make them a little easier to catch. Sabiki rigs are commonly used for thread fins in my region and blue runners, jigging them up off channel markers and hard bottom. Pinfish and pigfish can be caught in traps. You can actually purchase traps from your bait store or your local tackle shop and put those out and put some sardines and squid in them and catch pinfish and pigfish, which are great for offshore and snook fishing this time of year. In the summer months, we get those pass crabs that float in and out of the pass on the new and the full moons. Those are great for permit and tarpon. Moving offshore, the mangrove snapper bite in my region remains really strong, fish being caught as shallow as 10 feet of water and all the way out to 70 feet of water over any kind of high relief structures like rock piles, artificial reefs, wrecks. And a knocker rig has really been the key to success with this. Light 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leaders, the smallest hook you can get away with, that 1/0 to 3/0 circle hook is great. 1/2 ounce to 3 ounces of lead. And as far as bait goes, live shrimp, cut sardines, and small pinfish have been the ticket. Moving inshore, Captain Jimbo Keith, a saltwater assassin fishing charter from Cedar Key, reports the inshore trout bite has been pretty steady with the hot part of the summer. The speckled trout are pretty active this week. In the last 2 hours, the incoming tide in 3 to 4 foot of water. Fast assassin green moon seems to be the hot color right now, and he's fishing that beneath a B52 Super Sounder cork. Moving all the way up to the north end of my region, Captain John Lane reports at Apalachicola his speckled trout bite has been hitting good around the oyster bars. He's using a popping cork with a live LY, which is like our scaled sardine, with a 2/0 live bait hook. And I've got a nice photo here from Captain Jimbo.
Nice.
Cuties.
All right. What else?
I'm going back to Captain Jimbo with the redfish report for his area. Captain Jimbo Keith out of Cedar Key reports the redfish have slowly been improving around the islands. The last 2 hours of the incoming tide and the first 2 hours of the outgoing tide, he's producing most of the fish this week. And he's fishing cup mullet fished on the bottom. And going up to the northern part of my region, Captain John Lane out of that Apalachicola area said his redfish bite right now has been good around the marshes, marsh points, and passes, and he's fishing fresh, dead shrimp on a 2/0 circle hook with a 1/2 ounce lead and 12 inches of 30 pound fluorocarbon leader. And I've got a couple great photos turned in from both Jimbo and Captain John.
All right.
Good redfish right there.
Hey, Hagalicious, I got a couple questions for you. The first one is going to be, Tell us a little bit about the scallops. Why has it been so tough this year?
We've had a lot of fresh water, so they've been off a little bit. They've been out in deeper water. Right now, I got a report a little late to put in this week's report from Captain Mario, and he's actually limited out pretty good right now. So the scalloping is getting better, but it's been all that fresh water and coolness keeping them out a little deeper.
All right, so my second question for you, Bub, is, we just filmed a Sportsman's Adventure episode down in the harbor. It's a place you spend a lot of time during tarpon season. I learned a trick, and I want you to share that. I mean, everybody thinks about fishing in the pass as a straight up and down deep water. The fish that I caught, which was a 140-pounder, why don't you teach everybody how we hooked our bait and what the bait was?
Yes, please do.
We were using live pinfish tail hooks so that bait would swim down free line. Now, we had to get to the right part of the tide to get that to work. And as that tide started slacking up, those fish were stacked up almost 30, 40 feet off the bottom in 60 feet of water. So they were getting up there in the water column and letting that bait swim down to them as we made a little bit of back reverse and back trolling to make that bait fall down in that school of fish and get them a bite.
Yeah, it was really cool how we would cast up current and let it come back to the boat, which is so non-typical what you would want.
Weird.
But Jeff would stay on top of the Yamaha, back us away, and then the line would be 40 or 50 feet down. What was crazy, he would be marking them on the Garmin, and what he did is he'd say, throw a 60-foot cast because the fish were at 60 feet. Throw a 50-foot cast at 2 o'clock to the boat or 1 o'clock to the boat. And you just watch it drop, 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 and he would manipulate the boat with the motor. Never had any kind of presentation like that. I learned a lot, Bub. I appreciate you very much. And guess what?
Had a great time with you.
Yeah, man, we're going to do it again. And it's time for the Anytime sunscreen and mosquito repellent hotspots from the Northwest region. He says inshore, snook around the beaches and passes. Use pinfish or sardines on the outgoing tide, and then offshore, mangrove snapper on the high relief structure in 30 to 70 feet of water. Use cut sardines on a knocker rig.
That means a lot when Captain Rick Murphy learned something new.
It was really cool.
That
I
is
really
cool.
learned a lot.
That's cool. All right, if you're not fired up to go throw that cast net or whip out a sabiki rig for your targeted species of the weekend, I don't know what to tell you because we're out of regions and out of time, but we are telling you what species we're targeting next week right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, so stay tuned.
Titan and Titan XD Diesel from Harbor Trucks has America's best truck warranty, 5 years, 100,000-mile bumper-to-bumper, and can tow up to 12,000 pounds. Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of Titan XD and Titan in Florida, starting at $29,000. Harbor Trucks is conveniently located halfway between Tampa and Naples. Harbor Trucks, the place to buy.
Master your most challenging offshore experience with confidence and ease with Yamaha Helmmaster. Precise, intuitive control on the open seas. Unrivaled ease for maneuvering and docking in port. And now SetPoint adds 3 new dimensions to boat control. Maintain boat position with fish point, or a position and heading with stay point, or a heading while you drift with drift point. Yamaha Helmmaster, now with SetPoint. Complete digital control for today's larger offshore boats.
For the bass that thinks it's a bulldog. For the walleye that thinks it's a freight train. For the tuna that thinks it's a torpedo. For the tarpon that thinks it's a tarpon. You need the mono that thinks it's a braid. Suffix Advance. New Advanced Mono with HMPE braid molecules for strength, abrasion resistance, and low stretch. Suffix Advance. The mono that thinks it's a braid.
Be sane. Don't fritter away your time. Create. Act. Take a place wherever you are. And be somebody. Get action.
All right, make sure to tune in next week because we are talking all about yellowtail. That'll be fun.
Yellowtail?
Yellowtail.
Awesome.
Awesome. Randy will be excited
I like
about that.
yellowtails.
Yellow
This shirt you should wore next
I should have
week.
worn next week.
Because
Oh, I have
it
to
certainly
don't
will
worry.
match
Listen, I got
perfectly
it.
the
I got my
14
outfit.
karat
Thanks for
gold
tuning in,
yellow
guys. Have a
stripe.
great weekend. Catch lots of bait. We'll see you next week
All
for
right.
Yellowtail.
All right. Bye.